We all remember the last election. Campaigning went from the streets to these, which meant that it demanded faster speeds, more bandwidth, and more importantly, better batteries. And if I could get a nickel for every time politicians used social media cleverly for their campaigns, I'd be a rich man. And that reminds me, for decades, copper was the king of minerals in Zambia. But thanks to the digital future, there's a new monarch in the country, and that is nickel. This brings us to First Quantum Minerals. Now, First Quantum Minerals is no stranger to Zambia. It's been around for over 2 decades, and it's most known for its Kansanchi copper mine. But now, as of 2024, they also introduced a nickel mine, which signifies a new economic era in this country. To get to the importance of nickel in Zambia, or the Zambian nickel, we have to look at the geopolitical context of it. And what it is that there's a severe deficit in high purity battery grade nickel, class 1. Of course, there are competitors on the ground. If you look at a country like Indonesia, they've got a high volume of nickel, but theirs is of a lower grade, and it is called high volume polluting laterite ore, HPAL. So that's where Zambia has the edge, because ours is, as I mentioned, a high purity battery grade nickel class 1, which is good for making EV batteries. Now, going back to the geopolitical stage, of course, there isn't just Zambia and Indonesia at play. There's more countries. For example, there's Russia, which is the leading supplier of nickel in the world. And they supply about 30 to 35% of the nickel supply annually, which is up to 200,000 tons per year, followed by Canada, which provides about 15 to 20%. Now, Canada, that comes up to about 150,000 tons per year. Ending up the top 3 is Australia with 10 to 15%, which is 100,000 tons per year. Now, again, we're looking at the context of the geopolitical aspect. Russia, of course, is currently a no-touch zone, a no-go zone, because it has caused a little bit of a kerfuffle in the world with its war against the Ukraine. So as a result, both the US and Europe have a hands-off mentality with whatever comes out of Russia. That's not just its nickel, but also its oil and its gas. And because of that, Zambia has something to gain, because we have nickel that everybody wants, and we have a neutral stance in the world, which means that there is a higher demand for our nickel because of our neutral stance. Of course, everything sounds a bit abstract with the percentages that I just gave, so let's make it a little bit more concrete. What does this mean for Zambia, this 30,000 tons per year? Well, of course, before you can produce, you need to invest, and investment is about $250 million US. And that creates or produces the 30,000 tons of nickel that I just mentioned. The lifespan of the mine currently is about 12 years. Now, what does that mean economically in terms of GDP and jobs? Well, the total direct jobs at the mine site and primary contractors are estimated at 300 to 500 people. And of course, these are high-skilled positions. The indirect multiplier effect generates another 3,000 to 5,000 ancillary jobs in positions such as logistics, services, and local procurement. Now, the total direct and indirect contribution is projected to provide about 0.5 to 1% annual boost to the Zambia's non-copper GDP. Of course, this is during peak operation. And this translates to an estimated 170 million to 340 million US injection into the national economy annually. And this is based on a 34 billion GDP baseline. As we've clearly indicated throughout this video, we're not just looking at nickel in its raw form. We've been stressing on the importance of EV batteries. And I'd like to focus some light or shed some light on the MMOU that was signed between the DRC, the US, and Zambia into making EV batteries or components of EV batteries right here in Zambia. So this will transform the nickel into nickel sulfate. And this is a critical precursor material for EV batteries. You need to remember that Zambia has focused traditionally mostly on copper, and with this introduction of nickel, they're diversifying into other avenues of making money. Now, it's not just the automotive industry that will have a profit from this. There's other industries as well, namely aerospace superalloys for the jet engine components. medical equipment, catalysts, which are used in hydrogen generation, and stationary grid storage. And of course, there's the potential of artisan crafts such as stainless steel that are used in the casings for watches, and of course, other items as well. This 30,000 tons of extra ore that is coming out of the country also needs to be moved out, and be it in its current form as nickel sulfide or as a finished product, I don't think that our current roads can currently handle that extra burden, as it were. And that is why the Lobito corridor is very important, or an important cog in fixing this solution. And because of its importance, and because it's such a major game changer for regional logistics and economics, we will dedicate an entire episode to its political, financial, and logistical details later in the series. Now, before we do that, and before I move on, I have a question for you, the viewer. What will you do? Are you investing directly in the mining giants? Or are you betting on the logistics and power companies that service this multi-billion-dollar operation? Let us know in the comments below. Have your Indaba, and we look forward to reading them and responding. Zambia is not the land of milk and honey. There are of course some risks and objections that are involved in this project as they would be with any other project. And I see two main issues where we will struggle. And that is namely the power crisis that we're currently facing, because there's a deficit in power supply. And the other one would be the logistical department, where of course the Lobito corridor, as I mentioned, will be of massive importance. But when it comes to power, there are some solutions that we will be discussing in the weeks to come. So stay tuned for that. I started this episode by talking about the previous election, and I spoke of how campaigning went from the roads or the streets to these. And I think it was an impulse or an incentive for all of us to get one of these, to exercise our right to vote. That was in the previous election. The current election is no different. Who we vote for influences what will happen over the next 5 to 10 years, and if policies are good or bad, probably even longer. So what I intend to do with these episodes is to showcase what this UPND government has done in the last 5 years, and possibly give you a glimpse of what they will do if they do manage to regain power in the next 5 years. And with this video, or these videos, I hope to showcase whether or not this government will change things in the nick of time or not. But in the coming months, I'll take you on a journey, and I hope you're going to take it with us all the way through. So stay tuned. In the next one, we're going to look at FQM's Kansanchi S3 expansion with a whopping 1.25 billion copper deal that proves that the Copper King isn't going anywhere just yet. See ya.